my name is Jo Rogers and I'm the founder of Navistar Legal. And today I have Simon Zutshi and he is here talking to us a little bit about how things are in his world. Welcome, Simon.
Hi, Jo. How are you?
I'm good. I'll give a bit of an intro to you. Simon's the founder and chair of Crown Property, and he's also the founder and CEO of Property Investors Network. We got to meet a number of years ago, and I've known you for a number of years, and your business has just grown substantially. I'm now seeing Crown Property, which wasn't even around. How old is that? Crown Property?
2014, we first launched.
Right, so it's a baby still. 5 years.
Yeah.
6 years, coming up to 6 years. But yeah, I mean, I must have known you before that was even an idea. So you guys are doing really well. The reason I wanted to connect with you, and I'd love to hear kind of your background to business. But first of all, you've got a super successful business. Second of all, you're in the property game, which may or may not be experiencing, its own stuff right now, but also because I've seen so much of you recently on LinkedIn and on, I don't know whether it's Facebook, but definitely on social media.
Yeah.
The shifts that you've been doing in business. And
absolutely.
To create in this kind of interview series was a bit of inspiration for business owners. And I think you epitomized that. So Simon, tell me a little bit about your background and how you've come to where you are now.
So, okay, I have a very traditional background. Went to school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, but kind of fell into university. I always wanted to do business. I've always been entrepreneurial, but frankly, I probably wasn't clever enough to get the high grades you need to do business at university, because it's a very popular thing, right? So I got in through the back door. I actually did engineering with business studies at Birmingham University. So it was a 4-year combined honours degree. One of my sisters had done engineering and she said it was okay, pretty good thing to do. And my sister said, look, you're smart enough to go to university, Simon. You should definitely, it's not about the qualification, it's about the life and the etc. So they kind of coerced me to go. And so I went to Birmingham and I loved university, brilliant. And I then expected to get a really good job at a blue chip company, because obviously I was great. Yeah, of course, just like that. Yeah. Well, hang on. Both my sisters. One sister worked for Mars at the time. One worked for Procter and Gamble, big FMCG. Why can't I do that as well? Birmingham University, 4-year degree course, blah blah blah. So I applied, and in 1995, I didn't actually get a job. So I came out of university with no job, and that was a bit of a bringing down to ground. And I think part of the reason was that very often, before you get your degree, recruiters will assess you, and they get thousands of people applying to these big companies. And I think A-level results is one thing they filter on. And I didn't have great A-levels. I squeezed into Birmingham, as I said. And then also I didn't actually have my degree. Now I got a 2-1 in the end, so a really good degree from a great university. So, and the other problem was I didn't do enough applications. I just didn't put enough effort in. And I think it's a big lesson I got. If you want to do anything, you've really got to commit. You got to put a stake in the ground and do what's necessary. And I think right now, and we'll come to this later, people have got to commit. They've got to make a decision that they're going to sort this problem out and just get on with it, basically. So that was a really early lesson for me. So I got a job just in telesales, which frankly was just to show I was employable and also to bring some money in because I had no money. And I stayed living in Birmingham. I come originally from Kent. And so I thought, I want to get a really good graduate job. So I really put a stake in the ground, and I instead of applying for 7, I applied for 37 graduate jobs. And you probably remember, Jo, this is back in the day before the internet. These graduate applications, like 4 or 5 pages long, handwritten, and you had to fit into a box how you'd solved a difficult team challenge. I think, well, I don't know if I've ever done that. So you had to make something up that was going to look good.
The time when, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a lot of these and cut a long story short, I got 7 first stage interviews, 4 second stage interviews, and I got 2 job offers. And one of them was to go to Boots, to the Boots International. So it was the healthcare, it was the pharmacies, it was the retail, it was Halfords, the whole group, to do finance as a fast track management accountant. I thought finance is a really good thing to do. I was a bit put off by another 3 years of exams to get qualified. And the other one I got a job with was Cadbury's. Now, Cadbury's was based in Birmingham where I was living, so it was kind of within my comfort zone. I didn't have to move cities. And I love chocolate. So Cadbury's kind of won. But interestingly, I had applied to Cadbury's the first year round. I didn't even get an interview. But because I decided, actually, that's the kind of company, I put an application in again. And in my first interview, he said, oh, we noticed you applied last year, but didn't get it. So I said, yeah, I know, but I really want to work here. He said, yeah, well, that's why we invited you back. And I think that's a really important lesson for us as business owners is persistence. Yeah. Sometimes people do something once, it doesn't work. No, that doesn't work. Well, maybe it's because we didn't do enough of it or we didn't do it properly. And persistence is a thing that I've learned a lot about. You know,
so it's also a numbers game. Like there's a numbers game. Like 7 versus 37, completely different. Go for the numbers at this point in time. Yeah.
Go large. And so I got the job at Cadbury's, which was great. And as soon as I got a job at Cadbury's, and I thought that's it, set for life, corporate career, and Cadbury's was brilliant. Great company to work for. I mean, a really, really great company to work for. Because I'm on the graduate scheme, I was mentored by one of the directors. They really look after you. I went through that pretty quick, became a senior manager, loved the company, loved the people, loved the product. But I actually left after 5.5 years. I'll tell you why. So in 95, when I got my job, as soon as I got my job, I bought a house in Selly Oak, next to Birmingham University and one suburb away from Bourneville, which is where Cadbury's is based. And I rented out 2 of the rooms to my friends who were still at university. And the rent that they paid pretty much covered the costs. And I had a part-time business as well, which was running student nightclub events in Birmingham. And I'd done that previously. I'd done it actually when I was at school. We hired a big village hall attached to a bar, and I'd done a couple of student balls because in Sevenoaks where I lived, there was nothing to do. There were no clubs or anything, nothing. So I've always been entrepreneurial. And I had this money building up on my business bank account. And my bank manager said to me, what do you want to do with that? So to cut a very long story short, sent an IFA around and decided to buy a second house. So I moved out of my first house into another one, slightly closer to Cadbury's. And I rented the first one out to students. And that's when I had this epiphany that, you know, I was going to work every day and I have to turn up to get paid and I come home, spend the money and then go back to work. But with my property, I didn't have to do any work really. And I got paid every single month because the rent that I got coming in was actually more than the mortgage and the insurance and the maintenance. So I was getting some profit every single month. And I look at property as little cash machines. The more cash machines you have, you can replace your income. So I started to buy more and more. And by 2001, I had enough, not to replace my income, but to leave work. And that was a really scary moment. Anyone who's set up their own business and is listening to this will realize that when you hand that notice in, it's a mixed feeling of excitement and also fear. You know, what have I done?
Terror.
Yeah, fear is not a strong enough word, actually. Terror, you know. But I remember walking back home the day I handed my notes in, and I was kind of like walking on clouds. It felt in my stomach a really good thing. So I had my properties. I was doing my club business, and actually it was interesting. I had an idea. This was remember 2000. I've been doing club things. 2001 I actually left, and I set up a business that was kind of. It came at a difficult time. It was post the .com boom, but it's before its time of what I was trying to do. I set up a business called Events Email, and the idea was through all the universities to get students to give us their email addresses, which was easy in those days because there weren't so many people doing stuff, and to speak to clubs and almost set up like a free information service. We send them 1 email a week telling what's happening in all the clubs and the bars with discount vouchers and things. And that this was free to the students. They go along and we got paid by the clubs for putting people into their clubs. Brilliant business. But it was my first real business failure because I actually thought that everyone in the team was going to be as good as me. And I didn't really lead them, but I'd managed people in Cadbury's, but I didn't really manage these people properly. And ultimately, the business wasn't creating enough money and I was subsidizing this business and I had to cut it, had to finish it, which again was real.
That's a big lesson, actually. What point do you cut? Because you're like, how did that feel? You know,
it was terrible. I had a number of nightclub events that were bringing in cash flow, and that was subsidizing this other business. And it got to the point that actually the cash flow income was coming down because I wasn't focusing on the club. Someone else was looking after that for me. And so I learned a lesson about the difference between delegation and abdication. You know, and I think many people in business, they think they're delegating, but they just let someone get on with it and they haven't given the clear guidance. And by the way, all these things I've learned from, I don't claim to be an expert on at all. It's just things I've learned on my own. I'm still working on trying to delegate stuff. And I have an amazing team now. And I count myself very, very lucky to have such a great team. And that's kind of developed over time, and it hasn't always worked, but you know, getting the team to help you is a really key thing. And for those people who are new to business, there's a great saying by one of my mentors, a guy called Brad Sugars, who is the founder of Action Coach, which is an international coaching business. He has a saying, which is, not hiring someone for your business is costing you a fortune. You see, most of us look at the cost of employing someone, and we don't realize the opportunity cost of all the things we're doing that we shouldn't really do. And when you start a business, you're everything, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to do stuff, and you're not the best person to do a lot of those things. So getting someone else in, and even these days, you know, using virtual assistants, doesn't have to be someone here based in the UK. It can be a lot lower cost, etc. And they're often really good and really happy. They get a very good salary for where they live. But getting someone else in to help is a key message. As soon as you can in your business, I would encourage you to do that. And eventually get to a bigger team, which has its own challenges, I guess. But
and you guys, I mean, one of the interesting things to watch you, particularly in this kind of situation that we're in at the moment, Property Investors Network is basically an events business, and you've had to shift on a dime. Like, tell me how you've managed to do that, because in my mind, events businesses, that's it now, done. Yeah. Okay, finished.
Well, yeah, that's what we were thinking about 3 weeks ago as well.
I bet. Tell me, what have you done?
Okay, so just so people understand, so I left Cadbury's 2001. Yeah. It took me a couple of years. By then, I completely replaced my income by 2003.
Yeah.
And I'd started investing in myself and my own personal development. I'd done Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Jay Abraham, and I learned about the importance of environment. And this is something that small business owners often struggle with. They're often on their own, right? You've got to get like-minded people around you who understand what you're trying to do. And I was going to breakfast networking meetings, and I met people from my property business, my nightclub business. So printer, accountant, solicitor, mortgage broker, all of those people, brilliant. But none of them actually had any property. So they didn't really understand what I was trying to achieve. So in 2003, I went online to see if there's some sort of group that I could join of property investors. Now, it sounds crazy because there are now hundreds of them, but then there was nothing. So I thought, well, I'll set one up. So I set up the very first ever networking meeting in the entire UK, specifically for property investors, back in 2003, and called it Property Investors Network. And initially it was just me in Birmingham, a small group of people, and people said to me, Simon, how come you don't have to work? So I started to explain what I'd done, and I realized what I'm really passionate about, Joe, is actually teaching other people and helping them become financially free. And that's what I've done for the last 17 years, I suppose. Yeah. And I get a real buzz from that, because one of my values is I need to feel like I'm making a difference. And I guess a sense of personal worth and significance is being able to help other people. And I love to get acknowledgement. Obviously, that's a danger value, but that's something I like. We all like a bit of praise now and then, right? And so this one meeting started to grow, and I did one in London, and I'm asked to speak at the London Property Show, and it kind of just grew really. Then people who had done our training said, well, I don't want to travel to Birmingham or London. Can I start a meeting where I'm based? And so through a kind of a partnership organization, we've grown this. So we now have 51 physical meetings every month around the UK, or at least we did until we thought it's not very wise for people to get together a group. And that was before this lockdown was announced. We just thought, well, we need to do our piece to stop this situation getting worse. And so we pivoted very quickly. So imagine you've got 51 meetings around the country. That's 51 hotels you've got a contract with. It's 51 hosts. And that takes a lot of organizing in itself. They're not employees. They're kind of like partners, if you like. And the reason they do it is they get credibility and positioning as the local expert. And we pivoted. So what we did, we thought, okay, we do a lot of webinars, we do a lot of free training we give away. So we thought, let's take these meetings, and typically they're usually on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday in the first 4 weeks of the month. So like last Thursday, there were 5 meetings. There was one that would have been in Kent, there would have been Canary Wharf, Birmingham Central, Northampton, Leicester. So instead we bring all 5 of those onto the same call, and we use Zoom. So we use GoToWebinar, sorry. And the idea is we have, like we would at a normal network meeting, we have a couple of speakers who are relevant to property, some up-to-date info. And right now, people need info. They need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Great speakers. Then we have the opportunity to network. And the reason people go to network meeting is the more people you know in your industry, the more successful you're going to be. The bigger your net worth, the bigger your network, right? Your bigger your network, bigger net worth. That's what I meant. And so people go along to physically connect, which is great. But what we do now is we have an online virtual networking where people can go and post what they're doing and who they're looking for. So rather than just connecting people at the local meeting you'd normally go to, maybe 5, 10 people if you're lucky, actually maybe 100 people all around the country, place people you'd never ever connect with. And very often people want to invest outside of their geographic area anyway. And so it's a great way of connecting with those people. Now, there's a couple of interesting things here that I want to get across to business owners. We thought, okay, well, it's virtual. You know, we charge £20 to go to a network meeting normally, which is not a lot, especially given the value they get. And we thought, should we drop the price? We thought, no, we're not going to drop the price for 2 reasons. First of all, if you drop your, and we did get some emails saying, oh, because of this, can you drop the price by 50%? We thought, no, we're not, for 2 reasons. First of all, as a business, if we drop that rate to £10 or free, that becomes a new normal. And that will kill our business when we want to go back to physical. So that's the first thing. And instead, rather than dropping the price, and this is a really important message I want to get across to everyone who's listening, instead of necessarily, and in this day and age, maybe dropping the price and doing deals and offers is a good idea. But what we decided to do was say, because it's only £20, and in reality, if you're investing in property, if you can't afford £20, you really probably shouldn't be investing in property, right? We've added value. So we've got this enhanced networking. And what we also do is we record each of the sessions and make that available to someone for a full month. So we're adding extra things in rather than bringing our price down. Because I've still got all my head office costs. I've still got my team behind. In fact, my team worked massive amount of overtime to be able to move our whole business. We decided on a Saturday morning, we had our first virtual meeting on the Monday.
Brilliant.
You know,
I mean, I've seen your guys work, and they
have an amazing team. Just an amazing team. And you know, I'm kind of so very lucky that I have such a team who are really engaged, and they really want to, they like what we do, and they see the difference we make as a business, and they're part of that. And we instill in them how important their jobs are, because they are part of the whole thing. I could not do what I do, and I often get the credit. I couldn't do it if it wasn't for my team.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And I guess it's taken a while for you to get to the point where that team is kind of, you know, top notch and working so well together, because you can have some great people, but they don't work together, and you can have some people who are, you know, quietly in the background sabotaging, but you never find out until later. I think you're at the growth, you're past that stage. You've got this really kind of.
We've had some team members that haven't worked out, and you know, we sometimes bring people on. We've made mistakes in recruitment. That happens in business, right? But I have several employees who've been like 8, 9, 10 years, which I think is pretty good, really. And I completely trust them, and I know they would always do the right thing. And, you know, that's taken a while, because as a business owner, I think, and I may be generalizing here, but most of us are massive control freaks. And I wouldn't say I've got that perfect yet either. I do sometimes want to dive into the detail and find out what's going on. But I know a lot of things I don't even hear about. They're just dealt with. And for me, it's taken a long time to get there, but that's the dream. And it's probably me interfering is when I have to get involved. The team could probably run most of it themselves.
And you mentioned earlier about the personal growth that you've done, because you know, that's your background, isn't it? You really have enjoyed and you've thrived on
absolutely
personal development and growth stuff.
Yeah, well, I've learned so much myself. Yeah, and I've come on, and I still do it. You know, I spend a lot of money every single year. Yeah. At the moment, I'm in 2 mastermind groups over in America. So I fly to America at least 4 times a year.
Well, you did.
Sorry.
Oh, you did.
Well, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it's interesting that I don't think they've pivoted as well as we have actually. They try to do. Anyway, I'll come back to that. But I find the more I invest in myself, the more successful I become. Right. And actually, one of the most important things at the moment is mindset.
Yeah.
And look, now is a scary time, massive uncertainty, and I completely understand why a lot of people are freaking out right now. And it is a major thing we're going through, a massive change. And some businesses won't last. Some people are going to make redundant. This is scary times for a lot of us. I think we're going to, as a country, I think we're going to go to recession, maybe even depression. You know, we have to get ready for that. But you know what? Some of the most successful businesses have been born in times of recession. And it's about working out, what do people need? How can we help those people? What are the things that are required? And that's great businesses have been grown out of that. So I think whether that means people pivot their existing businesses, we've had to do. And hey, look, let's be honest, you know, the revenue, we have the training business, we've taken our events, we have a year-long mastermind program, which is quite a high ticket. We achieve amazing results for people. We put that online. And at first, our students were really kind of, oh, let's just postpone the workshops. I don't want to do that, you know, because they get so much of the actual connection and the engagement when we physically get together. But using Zoom, which I must admit has been incredible, the way you use breakout rooms and things, most of the students said, actually, this is much better than we thought it was. And they're really pleased that we kept the workshops going, because right now, where all this stuff's going on, that's when you need the focus. That's when you need the grounding. Yeah. And you plug into that support group saying, actually, yeah, this is all happening. This is really serious, but there's a way forward. And also there's an opportunity.
I'm going to come back to the opportunity, but I want to just share, because your book, as I was saying, my makeshift, I've got a makeshift computer stand at the moment consisting of various books, including Ainsley Harriot's Barbecue Bible, which is not mine. But one of them that I saw was your Property Magic.
Oh, I've got one as well.
You got yours as well. I'm going backwards for some reason, but yeah, Property Magic, which was one of my personal development books. Probably, I'm not going to say at the last recession, it was probably not long after I met you, and I was like, oh, who is this Simon Zutshi fellow? And reading that book was a real eye-opener from a property perspective. So you're not just soaking in that personal growth. You're then allowing other people and saying, you know what,
absolutely.
Let me tell you, which is what I get from Property Investors Network as well. Whenever I've been to a meeting.
Absolutely. You know, I'm a great believer that if you want to be successful, I have a model which I call the maximum achievement model. Okay, and there are three elements. I think if you want to be successful in business, in property, in anything, you need these three elements together. So the first is specialist knowledge. You need to know what to do. And most people who train in property, they're great. They say, here's what you need to go and do. But I realized in the early days when I was teaching in 2003, I'd do seminars, we'd offer a money back guarantee. We always do that anyway. People don't ask their money because we give way more value than we charge people for. Get amazing feedback. This is going to change my life. Brilliant. But I realized quite early on, I'm sure you know this stat, Joe, in the seminar industry, probably less than 3% of people who go to a seminar actually apply what they learned.
I didn't know that stat, but I've definitely been to many seminars of which I've not applied everything I've learned.
And same here.
I can acknowledge that, yeah.
That's part of human nature, because guess what? Life gets in the way. We have other priorities, and we go and we're interested, And I actually got a bit upset. I'd have all this great feedback. I'd have people who were doing stuff, but sometimes human nature is we focus on the things that aren't working, right? And actually, for a period of time, I stopped training people in 2006 because I thought, well, look, I actually, I always want to give great value, and I got a bit upset and frustrated. I thought, well, hang on, these people are paying me, and they're not doing it, and I kind of thought maybe that's my fault. Now, that's a crazy thing, right? But I was thinking it's just about knowledge. And I realized, so I did property for 6 months, just property. And in 2006 was a great time to buy. We were using a very creative finance method. And I got an extra £1 million of property and added £50,000 profit to my portfolio in literally 6 months. And I was making lots of money, but actually I got bored and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And that's when you realize actually it's not all about money. It's about
the values are about teaching as well, aren't they? Yeah.
And teaching and helping others was one of the things I want to do. So I actually went back to it, but I realized just teaching people what to do wasn't enough. And I realized I need these other two elements in this model of support. The next is mindset, and the third one is support.
So So book ended with support, mindset, and support.
Knowledge, mindset, and support, right? And previously, I was just giving people the knowledge and expecting them to go and do it.
Right.
And even if you know what to do, there's well, yeah, I know that's what I should be, but the fear kicks in and that kind of thing, which is completely understandable. And investing in property is a big decision, and many people don't know what they do, and I didn't, and I kind of stumbled through, and I kind of did okay, but I also made lots of expensive mistakes. And actually, smart people recognize, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just find somebody who's done what they want to do and learn from them? And that's what I do now. So the mastermind groups I'm in, they're not property, but they're business ones. And I'm in 2 groups of successful people. I surround myself with like-minded peers and spend a lot of money on the course, and then also flying to America and the accommodation and stuff like that. And actually, I think an investment I make in myself just makes me better, makes me more resilient, makes me more open-minded. And then I pass as much as that as I can through to my training. So all of my training has mindset weaved in, because I know that knowledge alone is not enough. And the final element, the reason we created the mastermind program that we do, and actually, in a way, that's the support network. It's like-minded people around you. If you go into someone and say, hey, in a PIN meeting or a mastermind, hey, I want to replace my income in the next 12 months through property. People go, that's brilliant. How are you going to do it? They'll support you. They'll champion you. You know, that's someone
sounds like a really bad idea in this market. Don't go for that.
Well, you say it's a family member, they're going to say, oh my God, what are you doing? Have you seen the press? What's going on? You know, and because they don't get it. And you've got to be very careful who you listen to, especially, ladies and gentlemen, in this environment. If someone's telling you what you need to do with your business, you want to make sure they actually know about business and they've got a business, because everyone's got an opinion, a bit like an asshole, really. Everyone's got one of those as well, but it doesn't mean you listen to it, right? So, I said I wasn't going to swear on this, Joe. I'm sorry about that, but
I don't think that's swearing. It's completely different.
But the point is, you got to be very careful who you listen to. Yeah, and you got to pick your, you know, and one of the things that I do, you know, I do not watch the news. There's so much negativity. Now, it's important to know what's going on, but the problem is right now, many people are worrying about stuff they just cannot control. Mm-hmm. And I understand why that's happening, but really, it's very smart to focus on stuff that you can do something about. And in your business, you could do something about it. You can decide what you do. You can decide if you need to pivot it. You can decide if you need to shut up shop and do something else. That's your decision, but you are in control. And it doesn't feel like that. Like all these circumstances going on around us, but ultimately you need to remember that you are in control of your destiny. That's kind of Tony Robbins stuff, right?
It is, but it's also history, because I know you were around in 2008. We've been through a recession, I mean, regardless of the circumstances.
Let me tell you about 2008, right? So we all remember the global credit crunch. You might remember it hit in America first in about July 2007. And then the first real mass awareness of this was in November, I think it was 2007. And do you remember the queues outside Northern Rock? People queuing to get the money out. And that was the realization in the UK that, oh dear, something's not right here. And then we had the property market crash. And part of that was because people had bought property in the mid 2000s that was too expensive. It had absolutely boomed. Any market that goes up too quick, it's going to have to correct. So it's going to correct sometime, but it's a credit crunch caused it. And to be honest, there was irresponsible lending. There was irresponsible borrowing. People borrowed money they shouldn't do. Banks lent money they shouldn't do to people who would never, ever pay it back. And that's what caused this toxic debt, and the market crashed. Now, at that time, similar to now, actually, Joe, a lot of people say, oh my God, panic, got to sell my property, got to dump this property. And people were dumping property. It was a bit difficult to get finance, which it is immediately as we're recording this right now as well.
Yeah.
And actually, people in our mastermind, we were going, this is fantastic. This is an opportunity. And as long as you know what you're doing, actually, when the market comes down, it is a great time to buy, as long as you follow the golden rules that are in here. So I know this is not about property, but just very, very quickly, if you're buying something that you know you can rent out, that's the first thing, and it's going to make you positive cash flow, and you're holding for the long term, that's rule 2, 3, and 4, by the way. Well, actually, it doesn't matter what happens in the short term. So my students and myself, well, we were buying property in 2008, 2009, 2010, when people were still, oh my God, I'm not doing property for ages. And actually, the stuff we bought then, most of it's doubled in value right now. Yeah. And if you ask most property investors, if you had the chance to go back to 2008, would you buy more property? They'll also, oh yeah, of course I would.
If only I'd been able to get more funding at that point, I would have gone
exactly.
for it.
But guess what? There are other strategies where you don't need to get mortgages that we teach. I actually talk about in property managing as well. So the point is that when you have the knowledge, but also you've got the support and the content. My mastermind group, in the middle of March, when we had our online workshop, which I didn't really want to do, the feedback I got was, we really needed this, Simon, because, you know, we're bought into this, we're bought into you, but we were, oh my God, the game's suddenly changed. What do we do? And they recognized that, you know, actually there might be even more landlords, for example, who want to sell up and retire. And that's for a number of reasons that have been building up the last couple of years. New legislation, change of taxation, and then this virus thing. It's going to be the nail in the coffin for some people. They say, I don't want to do this anymore. That means there's opportunity. So look,
I mean, there's been so many changes over the last couple of years that have impacted, but all have opportunities. And that's what I loved. That's what I've been loving about your messaging, particularly to your groups, is just, hey guys, look, this is a serious moment. Let's all come together and continue to support each other, because and that's what I'm feeling within the small business community. It'd be very easy for us to go, and we do have a choice. This is a choice. It's within our remit, right? Do I sit back and wait this out and kind of hope at the end of 3 months, you know, I can pick up universal credit, or I can, you know, get my 80% from the government, whatever it is. Do I do that? Or is this my time to kind of switch on and switch into a different gear and be able to engage with the opportunities? And it's different. It's going to be different for everybody. But
I think what happens, Joe, there's a process people have to go through. First of all, there's shock. And there's fear, and there's the uncertainty. The question is, how long do you allow yourself to stay in that state before you shake yourself and realize, okay, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do here? And, you know, I think that, you know, when you hear about people being furlonged and getting 80% of the salary, if you think about it, the initial reaction, oh my God, I'm only getting 80% of my salary. Well, actually, first of all, at least you haven't been made redundant. Yeah. Secondly, if you think about it, although that's less than you were getting 80%, well, actually, if you're not traveling to work, that's less time and money you're spending. You're not getting teas and lunch at work. And actually, because we can't actually, at the time of filming this, get out of the house, you're probably not spending as much because you're not going out for meals and drinks and that kind of thing. And you might have increased internet spending a bit, but actually 80% might be enough.
Yeah.
The knee-jerk reaction for many people was, oh my God, this, you know, what am I doing? But you're at home, getting 80% of salary, doing bugger all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you don't actually therefore have to work if you're furloughed. So you're in
so now is and that's only employees, but there'll be people listening who've got businesses, and some of their employees might have to go on a furlough. But that's the way to position those guys. And now is the time to do those things you've always wanted to do. Now's the time to build up that knowledge about property or business or stock market investing or whatever it is. By the way, stock market, that's another opportunity. Stock market's crashed, it's recovered a bit. It's got a lot further to come down. I absolutely guarantee it's going to happen. But there's going to be a point at which actually investing back in the stock market and enjoying the ride up for the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be a great opportunity. So, you know, I'm heavily into property, but I also invest in business and stocks and stuff. I'm really keeping an eye on that, and I'm going to be diving back in. Not yet, but at some point, I'm going to be going back into the stock market.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean, for me, just even having conversations like this is my learning, you know, learn from you. I get to learn from other people who are like, okay, this is the way I'm thinking right now. And then suddenly just even hearing this, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can do this. And I'm hoping other people, when they're watching that, they're thinking the same, like there are opportunities, and what you were doing doesn't, yes, there may be things that can't be done right this second, and things that will pick up later on, but you may be in a position of shift, pivot, bring things online.
I think if you look at it this way, sometimes things happen. I think everything happens for a reason, actually. And this will be an amazing opportunity, even though it's scary, it's an amazing opportunity for business owners to really look at what they do and to slash costs and to become more lean. And unfortunately, some businesses won't make it, and that might be through no fault of their own. You know, I really feel for, you know, small retailers and for restaurants and pubs, and some of those are not going to make it, and that's a real shame for all of us, not just for the business owner, for the employees, for the customers. Everyone loses out there. But you know what? There'll be a whole load of businesses that come out of this much stronger, and also there will be new businesses, new opportunities that come out of this as well. And I think it is about recognizing where we are, of course, but then trying to stay positive and doing whatever. That's why I don't listen to the news. That's why I don't engage in Facebook. I do go into Facebook for various groups I've got to support people in those groups, but I don't get involved. It's very easy to get sucked in and consumed by the negativity. And something we've talked about, and I want to talk about this now, Joe, because I think there's one thing that's worse than the virus, more dangerous than this virus. And the virus is really dangerous. But the thing that's more dangerous and more contagious is the fear.
Mm. I was saying when we talked about this earlier, I feel exactly the same. And the place where you kind of can go for your daily input of that fear is the news or the channels. And yeah, I'm very similar to you. I'll stay informed, but getting dragged into that can be very all-consuming. It can take over an entire day, actually.
That's because as humans, we are programmed to look for danger.
Right.
You know, it goes back to the saber-toothed tiger days.
Yeah.
You see a tiger and you get that adrenaline reaction enough to either fight or flight, you know, and you hope that you're faster runner than your mate who's next to you. But we stimulate that all the time through social media and through environments, etc. So by trying to reduce that, you can, you know, and maybe a suggestion for something. I'm in a coaching group here in the UK, and one of the things they talk about is what's called a free day, and it's a day in the week where actually you do no work at all. Now that's really hard for me. I'm a serial entrepreneur, workaholic, but I'm not allowed to read any I'm not even allowed to listen to personal development, because that you could say, well, it's going to work, right? So I gotta watch films. I would normally go to the gym or whatever it might be. I'm not allowed to do any work, and don't touch my phone.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
You know what? It is tough, but I would encourage you, just give that a try. 24 hours, you can't touch your phone.
It's interesting because I'm part of a group as well. We set it up as a result of kind of the lockdown, and from 8:30 till 9, we talk about 3 things you can achieve for the day and 1 thing you're going to avoid. And the 1 thing you're going to avoid usually is social media, or I'm not going to leave, you know, I'm not going to pick up my phone. And it's so interesting how we all can understand how it affects us, but it's very difficult to put it down. And you know, I mean, you know, I've shared this with many people many times. You know, I've got an addictive personality, workaholism, alcohol, food, sugar, various other things, but adrenaline is my real drug of choice. It's continues to be my drug of choice. And when I watch the news, it's like, I get that hit, like, oh, yeah, and that feeling is actually very comfortable. Even though we don't like to be in fear, there's a sense of, oh, okay, then I can be at peace, because I know I can be on edge. I can be on edge when I know that there's something to fear. I can kind of do something about it. Then we're almost at that point of action.
Yes,
that's what I'm noticing. I'm certainly noticing with I've got family members in the States, and it's definitely ramped up more there, I experienced, than here, along with other feelings. And you're right, there is a process. I definitely went through a grieving process, 2 weeks ago, where I had huge anger and rage, and there were, big feelings around it. I've got my own views about what's going on. It was so interesting. So yeah, it's helpful to know that other people are going through that, and also kind of know what to do around it. But like you said, and I think this is the key point, focus on what you can control. None of this is in our control. I'm not the Prime Minister. I can have whatever opinions I like of what's going on, but I'm not in control of that.
Also, I think there's one final point, which, again, just bringing personal development into it. So one of the guys I do some work with, he had a guy, Richard Wilkins, you may know him. And
no, I don't know Richard, no.
So we got him to talk to some of our guys, and he came up with a great thing. He said, you've got to think about how you react and how you deal with this situation is going to be more of a legacy than what actually happens in the situation. Right. For example, if you've got kids, they're going to be looking at you and saying, how do you respond to this? And you're going to be very careful not to make knee-jerk reaction. There's another thing, I can't think who said it, but it's something about not making permanent decisions in temporary situations. So things happen temporarily and people make kind of life-changing decisions in those. And you just got to try and take a step back and really think about things. And Keith Cunningham is one of my mentors, talks about having quality thinking time. And we're just thinking about what you're doing and what's going on is a really smart thing to do. And if you've kind of got people around you, friends, coaches who understand what you're doing, if you can bounce ideas off them to have a sounding board, that's also a pretty good thing to do in times like this.
Yeah. I had one final question, was really about crowd property. Because
Yes.
What you guys are doing there, that's different to Property Investors Network.
Yeah, very different, yeah.
Has that been affected recently?
It has. So what Crowd Property is? So Crowd Property is a business I created in 2014. And it's because, so I still actively invest in property. I think it's important to do that because I'm teaching people, I want to make sure I'm up to date. I could have stopped 17 years ago, but I'm still doing it. And I'm still learning, right? And from about 2010, I started doing bigger developments. So I bought some care homes, turned them into flats and that kind of thing. And I realized just how hard it is to work with banks and they don't really understand property. They say they lend, but they don't really get it. Especially if it's something creative, clever stuff we're doing. They just, computer says no. So I've done a lot of investment where I've used other people's money and they've had a great return on that money. And I was usually working with people with chunks of 50K or more. And I realized a lot of people in my database who would love to be able to get involved and get a good return on their money, but they didn't have that much cash. And then it was actually an event that I was, a business event. I was going to go to lots of events that I was speaking at. And I met a guy called Simon Dixon, who I know you know, who set up a business called Bank to the Future. And I think we probably first met at one of Simon's events. I think we've been introduced, we kind of met there. And he'd set up an equity funding platform for small businesses, okay? And I thought, wow, maybe we could have a platform that brings people who've got great property development deals together with people who've got money in the bank doing nothing, and we can put it together and take care of all the regulation and the legal stuff and the admin, etc., and solve two problems at the same time. So that was the concept. And we went and raised some money on an EIS. We said, right, I've got this idea, and we valued it at £1 million. And we raised 150,000 using seed EIS. And it was just an idea. So it created an idea. Now, having said that, I've got a lot of people who know me in my little world, and people thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. And Simon's got the contacts of the people who've got the deals, and he's got people who've got the money as well. So I think there was a lot of faith and trust in me. But we put some products out there. We've got FCA regulated, all the things you need to do, and that business has grown and grown and grown. And March 2018, we did our third raise. We did the first one, then we did a second one with Cedars, then a third one. And the third raise, March 2019, we got a valuation of £15.7 million.
Brilliant.
And that's based on the fact that we're now getting over £100 million of loan applications a month. And we don't use brokers. We're direct to market. A lot of that's come through PIN initially, but so the businesses complement each other. Yeah. I've got a great team in that. I've got I've got a CEO who's running it because I didn't want to be in running. I didn't have the time, and my passion is the education, right? So I want to do that, but I've got a CEO running that business, and that's growing now. Now, obviously, we've brought money in to grow. We've been on a massive growth curve. And each year we're kind of doubling up the amount of loans we're doing. So we've lent over £60 million now and supported well over £100 million of development. Almost 1,000 properties have been built by the people who are borrowing through us. And touch wood, we've got a 100% payback track record. We've had a few loans that have been late, but no one's ever lost any money from it over the last 5-6 years, which is an amazing track record, given that in property things go wrong sometimes. So what's the effect right now? Well, right now, obviously, we've been on this massive growth curve. So we've had to go through a cost-cutting exercise. We've not made anybody redundant. We didn't want to do that because we actually feel that once we're over this, there's going to be even more opportunity. So we are getting geared and ready. And I think our valuation is going to go up even more because we're going to come through, survive this. We've got cash to keep us going for a certain period of time. We've cut costs. So we're doing what we need to do. Now, interestingly, we are still lending. Many of the lenders have said, we're not going to lend at the moment. We only fund good deals anyway. And actually, as we're getting more application, we could be more fussy and pick even better deals with maybe lower loan to value. So there's less risk for us and less risk for the lenders, because we think that, you know, markets might come down. So it's going to be a bit of a dip, but we've got plenty of headroom there. And obviously, we're working with our borrowers, you know, where maybe the problem is at the moment, they've not been able to they might finish the project and they were going to refinance out or sell. Well, that's very difficult to do right now. So we're kind of working with our lenders. And I think it's really important to recognize that we want to look after our borrowers on one hand, but we want to look after our lenders on the other. So there's a balance, right? So we've come up where we're going to probably extend loans or do new loans for our borrowers to give them longer time to get things sorted out. And we're give more interest to our lenders because of that. So we're really working hard to adapt to the market. And, you know, at the moment, as we record this, you can still work on building sites. And I think that's a wise move by the government, because if that stops, that would have a massive ripple effect.
Yes.
And lots of people would be in difficulty. So as long as people are using social distancing, which is possible on big sites and things, that's still moving forward, which is great. And hopefully that will continue. And so it's a case of, look, recognizing where we are, what can we do to add value to our clients, to support them? And we're getting a lot of applications from lenders that were shut down, and they're coming to us, and we're still lending, and we're still being reliable. And last week we did a raise for, I think, 350,000 for 65% loan to value. It was gone in 2 minutes.
Right.
And the week before we did 3 raises, just under $1 million in total. They each went in on the day they were launched. And, you know, so there is an appetite, and particularly because bank base rates have come down. Anyone who's got money in the bank right now really is in a bad situation. And so actually, we think, although yes, times are tough and we're having to streamline things a bit, we're keeping the doors open, we tighten the criteria a bit, but the fact we're still operating, we're going to be in an incredible place. And I think our shareholders can be very happy, because I think the value is going to shoot up even more when we get out of this.
Fabulous. Oh, it's so good to hear you, and so good to hear your positivity and just kind of your thoughts around not just this situation, but just around business in general, because I think you've got that ability to be able to see further forward, because you've done it, you've been there before.
Yeah. And thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. That's how I like to think I come across. But I just want to be really clear and transparent. I have my days where I go, oh my God, and I think, oh, you know, and I have that as well. So don't think I'm sitting here trying to say, oh, look at me, how clever I am. Not at all.
Yeah.
And you know, we've had some cash flow issues, because an events business, guess what? People stop just wanting to do live events. So, you know, that's why we're having to pivot. And although we pivoted, we're not anywhere near the revenue we used to be in the events business.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm talking from a place of positivity, because I'm saying I'm going to get out of this and we're going to survive. And, you know, things might not work out. I don't know, but
reality, that's what I hear. I hear grounded enthusiasm. That's the phrase that I've heard people use. Grounded.
I love that. I'm going to start using grounded. I like that. Grounded enthusiasm. Because, yeah, you've got to be realistic where we are. But if I focus on the problems of what could happen, what could go wrong,
you wouldn't get out of bed.
I just say, oh, right, well, a lot of businesses could quite rightly just pack up and say, oh, coronavirus, not my fault, coronavirus. And actually, maybe the businesses that are a bit shaky in the first place.
Yeah.
And there are some that, you know, like restaurants and bars, you know, they could quite legitimately say, actually, we can't do anything, we're shut, we're closed, we're gone, maybe. And that's going to be a real shame. But there are businesses who might think that, oh my God, it's all over, like events. But I hope what's come across from this is there's always a way. There's always a silver lining. And you might not be able to pivot in time and get it to work, etc. But at least I feel you've got to give it a go. You've got to try, you've got to give it your best. And if you give it your best and it still doesn't work, well, hey, you did the best you could. No one's going to, you should be content with that, and no one's going to criticize you. You know, everyone realizes, and one of those sayings, we're all in this together, which is kind of true. We are all, but effective in different ways from a different place. I know you hate those kind of.
I hate that phrase. I hate that slogan. but I say it all the time. Like, we're all in this together. Oh God. Yeah. No. And we are, and it's part of the whole kind of humanity feels a bit smaller today. The global environment feels a bit smaller today.
You know what? I think so. Again, looking at the positives, isn't it great how, on Thursday nights, people go out and at 8 o'clock they're applauding the NHS. Isn't that great? Isn't it recognising the hard work that they do? And isn't it great that people are helping each other in communities and looking after some of the old people, doing shopping, and people compare it to the Blitz in the Second World War, where there was a real community spirit. And actually, isn't that great? So if you look for it, there's always things that come out of these experiences. Hard to see at the time, maybe, but there's always stuff you can look for.
Yeah, and I'm taking away your 3 things. So knowledge, mindset, and support. And that's kind of what I'm hearing. It's not just in property, it's not just in business. It's actually now we can gather the knowledge. There's so much online stuff that's going on, including in property investor meetings. I know there was one last night. The mindset is about seeing the positive and having the gratitude and be able to kind of see the opportunities, even though we're accepting where we are, and the support. We hopefully those people watching this will feel there are people that can support us. We're not just as businesses, and I do believe, and this is where I will use that phrase, like we are in this together as small businesses. We are all in not all of us are employed, and not all of us have a salary. Some of us are in a position of going, right, okay, now it's time to pull out the plug. But like you say, it's also acceptable if we choose to go down the other path, and everybody's got to make their own decision about what moves us all forward. So
yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simon, for joining. And
thank you for asking me, Joe.
I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting back to a PIN meeting, because I love to speak about that stuff. Like, get me back on the.
Remember, you can still do it virtually, Joe. We've had to go from 51 speakers a month down to about 12 or 13, but I'm sure you'll be in the queue to speak at some point at one of the meetings.
And I are already on the conversation. Yeah, so it's those little things that you kind of look forward to, don't you? Well, thank you again for joining us. And yeah, 2 things. How can people find out more?
Okay.
And how do people get in touch?
Right. Okay. So a couple of things. So if people haven't read Property Magic, obviously, if you're interested in property, and you might think, no, I'm running a business. Well, let me tell you, actually, I said back in 2001, I had to shut a business down.
Yeah.
It was because I had property income that I was able to live. So actually, having a business is great, but what if something does happen to that business? In the same way that if you have a job or something happens to that job, if you have one source of income, you are at risk. So having multiple sources of income is actually a really smart thing to do. And I think people are realizing that right now. We're having a lot of people come to us saying, you know what, I've been thinking about this property game for years. I wish I'd bloody done it before. Now I have to, because they recognize that actually next 6, 9, 12 months is going to be a really good time to buy, as long as you know what you're doing. So reading Property Magic is probably a good thing. It's also available on Audible if you prefer listening to books, which I personally do. And also there's a completely free podcast called the Property Magic Podcast. It's just me, there's no interviews, it's just about stuff on my book, stuff on my mastermind program. And it was into property, you should absolutely listen and subscribe to that. Get it from iTunes, Google Play, etc. So that's the book. Go to PIN meeting, PIN meeting.co.uk to find out about the network meetings. They're all virtual at the moment, and you've heard about those. And if you've never been before to a PIN meeting, where it comes to pay £20, there's a place to put a voucher code in. If you just use my surname, which is Zutshi, Zutshi, you can come to your very first virtual physical meeting for free, just to check it out. And I think you'll see it's worth a lot more than £20. And hopefully
they have great speakers, really great. And they have great speakers.
And they have great speakers like you, Joe. Yeah, and you talk about things like contracts and joint ventures, which are very important to property investors. We have a lot of people who are experienced property investors or related things that you need to know about. So you should basically check out PIN. And if you want to connect to me, I have, obviously I've got my I've got a Twitter account. I've got an Instagram. I don't really get Instagram, but I've got an Instagram. If you want to follow on that, just search Simon Zutshi on Twitter, Facebook. LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. Send me a little note saying that you heard me on the video with Joe, and I'll happily add you in. And follow me on Facebook if you want.
Great.
That's
Simon,
it.
thank you so much for joining. Wishing you a great afternoon at home.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll see you again.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.